Sarah Chen's hands trembled as she stood outside room 412 of Toronto General Hospital. Through the small window, she could see him, Dr. Marcus Reed, her husband. She smoothed the white lace of her borrowed wedding dress and clutched the bouquet of white roses. "You can do this," she whispered. Inside, Marcus lay motionless in the hospital bed, dressed in a hospital gown, connected to monitors. The neurosurgeon had been in a coma for 6 months after a car accident while rushing to save a patient. Sarah had married him just an hour ago, a stranger, a deal, an escape from her nightmare family. The door burst open. 2 men in suits stormed in. "Miss Chin, you need to come with us. Tyler Martinez sent us." Sarah's blood ran cold. Tyler, her ex-boyfriend. "I just got married." Sarah's voice shook with rage. "Tell Tyler I have nothing to say to him. Not now, not ever." How did a woman end up in a wedding dress, married to a stranger in a coma, being hunted by her ex on what should be the happiest day of her life? Let me tell you a story about betrayal, survival, and what happens when you push someone too far. Very interesting story. Watch the full video so you can enjoy the story. Don't forget to share it to many people so you will never miss party 2. Is Sarah making a huge mistake staying with this toxic family? What do you think Grace is planning? Drop a comment below with your predictions. If you're already hooked on Sarah's story, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you don't miss where Grace makes Sarah a dangerous bet that will change everything. Trust me, you do not want to miss what happens next. See you in the next chapter. 3 months earlier, Sarah Chan had imagined this moment 1,000 times. Walking up the pathway to the Silver Estate in Toronto's prestigious Rosedale neighborhood. The mansion was massive. Stone facade, manicured gardens, a 3-car garage showcasing luxury vehicles. This was her real family. Her biological family. Sarah had grown up in foster care in Vancouver. She'd bounced from house to house, never belonging anywhere. Some homes were okay, some were nightmares. All were temporary. Then 3 months ago, everything changed. A social worker called with impossible news. DNA test results showed Sarah wasn't an orphan. She was the daughter of Robert and Linda Silva, wealthy tech entrepreneurs in Toronto, who'd lost her 24 years ago in a hospital mix-up. She'd been declared deceased as an infant but had actually been alive, lost in the system. Now, finally, she was coming home. The front door opened before she could knock. A young woman about her age stood there, beautiful, polished, wearing designer clothes and a smile that was all teeth, no warmth. "You must be Sarah," the woman said. "I'm Grace, your sister." The way she said, sister, sounded like an insult. "Nice to meet you." Sarah extended her hand. Grace looked at Sarah's hand like it was diseased, then turned away. "Come in. They're waiting." Sarah followed her inside, fighting to keep her expression neutral. Already starting with disrespect. Fine, she could handle this. The interior was even more impressive. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, original artwork. In the living room sat Robert and Linda Silva, her biological parents. Her brother Daniel stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, barely acknowledging her presence. They all looked at her the same way, like she was a problem to solve. "Sarah," Robert said stiffly. "No hug, no tears." "Hello," Sarah kept her voice steady. "Thank you for inviting me." Linda dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, but Sarah noticed there were no actual tears. "It's just so overwhelming having you back after all these years." "But you didn't lose me," Sarah said. "I was alive in the system, waiting." Uncomfortable silence filled the room. "Well," Daniel said, checking his watch. "You're here now. That's what matters, right?" Grace laughed. A cold, sharp sound. "Sure, that's what matters." Sarah felt anger rising. That protective fire that had gotten her through 24 years of instability. But she pushed it down. These were her parents, her real family. They just needed time to adjust. She had no idea how wrong she was. The first week was brutal. They gave Sarah the smallest bedroom in the 8-bedroom mansion, right next to the laundry room. The walls were thin. She could hear washing machines at all hours. Meanwhile, Grace's room was practically a penthouse suite with a balcony, walk-in closet, and private bathroom with a soaking tub. "I've been here for 20 years, Grace said when she caught Sarah looking. "I'm the daughter they actually raised. You're just biology." Sarah's jaw tightened. "Biology matters. Does it?" Grace tilted her head. "Because from where I'm standing, DNA doesn't mean much when you don't know which fork to use at dinner. When you don't know designer brands. When you talk like you're from the streets." "I am from the streets," Sarah said, her voice hard. "That's what foster care is. I survived things you can't imagine." "What have you survived, Grace?" "A bad manicure." Grace's smile disappeared. "Careful, Sarah. You're a guest in this house. Guests can be asked to leave." "I'm not a guest. I'm family." "We'll see about that." That night, Sarah lay in her small room, staring at the ceiling, listening to washing machines rumble. She wanted to scream, to fight. But she had nowhere else to go. No money, no backup plan. So she stayed quiet. For now. The real nightmare started 2 weeks later at a family dinner. Grace set down her fork and looked directly at Sarah with calculating eyes. "I have a proposition for you, Sarah." Sarah looked up from her plate. "What kind of proposition?" Grace pulled out a folded paper from her designer purse and slid it across the table. "A bet. A bet." Sarah picked up the paper. It was a contract, professionally written, legally binding. "I bet that I can take everything from you," Grace said calmly, like discussing the weather. "Your room, your possessions, even the people you care about. If I succeed 9 times in a row, you leave this house forever and never come back." Sarah stared at her. "Are you serious?" "Completely serious." Grace sipped her wine. "But if you win even once, if you manage to keep something I want, then I'll leave instead. I'll walk away from this family, sign away any inheritance rights, and you'll have them all to yourself." Sarah looked at Robert and Linda. "You're hearing this? Your daughter wants to make a bet about whether I can stay in this family." Robert cleared his throat. "Sarah, perhaps it would be good to settle things, establish boundaries." "Boundaries?" Sarah's voice rose. "This isn't about boundaries. She wants to play games with my life." "If you're so confident you belong here," Grace said smoothly, "then you should have no problem winning. Unless..." She paused dramatically. "Unless you know deep down that you don't belong here. That you're just a foster kid pretending to be one of us." Every instinct in Sarah's body screamed at her to walk away. This was manipulation. This was a trap. But the thought of Grace leaving, of finally having a real family without this poison in it. "Fine," Sarah said, grabbing a pen. "I'll sign your stupid contract." Grace's smile was triumphant. "Excellent. Let the games begin." Sarah signed her name, sealing her fate for the next 3 months of torment. The first 3 rounds happened fast. Round 1. Grace decided she wanted Sarah's room for her yoga space. She claimed the laundry sounds helped her focus. Robert sided with Grace immediately. "It's important for Grace's wellness, Sarah. You understand." Sarah moved to an even smaller room in the basement. No windows, just concrete walls and the smell of dampness. She wanted to scream, but the contract said she had to comply or forfeit everything. So she moved. Round 2. Sarah had found a stray cat outside the mansion, a sweet orange tabby she named Sunshine. For the first time since arriving in Toronto, Sarah felt like she had something that was truly hers. Something that loved her unconditionally. Grace suddenly developed a severe allergy to cats. Linda made Sarah take Sunshine to a shelter. "We can't have animals affecting Grace's health, sweetheart. Surely you understand." Sarah held Sunshine at the animal shelter, tears streaming down her face as she said goodbye to the one living creature that had shown her unconditional love. "I'm so sorry," she whispered into Sunshine's fur. Round 3. Sarah had gotten accepted to the University of Toronto with a full academic scholarship. She'd worked incredibly hard, maintained a perfect GPA at community college while working 2 jobs. She'd earned that scholarship through blood, sweat, and tears. But Grace suddenly decided she wanted to go to U of T too. Robert made some calls, pulled some strings, made generous donations. 2 weeks later, Grace had Sarah's scholarship. Sarah ended up at Toronto Community College instead. Her dreams of a prestigious education shattered. "You're better suited for community college anyway," Linda said, not looking up from her phone. "It's more your level." Sarah's hands shook with rage, but she didn't explode. Not yet. By round 8, Sarah had lost everything that mattered. Her room, her pet, her education, her dignity. The family stopped inviting her to dinners, stopped asking about her day, stopped acknowledging she existed unless Grace needed her for another round of humiliation. But round 9, that was the cruelest one yet. And it involved a man named Tyler Martinez. Sarah met Tyler Martinez at the Toronto Community College Library on a rainy Tuesday in September. He was tall with warm brown eyes, an easy smile, and a gentleness that made Sarah's guarded heart crack open just a little. He said he was a scholarship student too, working 2 jobs to pay for school while helping support his family. They bonded over late-night study sessions, shared dreams of making something of themselves despite their circumstances, and the exhausting reality of being underestimated everywhere they went. Tyler seemed to understand her in ways no one else did. He listened when she talked. He remembered small details about her life. He made her feel seen. After 3 months of friendship and slowly growing feelings, Tyler asked her to be his girlfriend at a small coffee shop near campus. Sarah said yes, her heart full for the first time in what felt like forever. She thought she'd finally won something. She thought she'd found someone who chose her. She was so wrong. One evening in late November, Grace called an emergency family meeting. Sarah walked into the living room and stopped dead. Tyler sat on the expensive leather couch next to Grace, looking uncomfortable but not leaving. His arm rested on the back of the sofa near Grace's shoulders. "What's going on?" Sarah asked slowly, dread pooling in her stomach. Grace smiled, that predatory smile. "Sarah, I'd like to formally introduce you to my boyfriend, Tyler." The world tilted. "What?" Sarah whispered. Tyler finally met her eyes. He looked guilty, but not guilty enough. "Sarah, I'm sorry. I should have told you sooner. But Grace and I have been together for a while now." "How long?" Sarah's voice came out strangled. "Since before I met you," Tyler admitted quietly. The room spun. Sarah grabbed the back of a chair to steady herself. "You," she couldn't form words. "You were with her this whole time?" "Tyler and I had a little disagreement," Grace said, examining her nails casually. "I suggested he explore his options. See what else was out there. Turns out nothing else compared to what we have. Right, baby?" Tyler shifted uncomfortably. "Grace, you said." "What?" Grace's voice turned sharp. "Be gentle." "Why?" "She needs to hear the truth." Sarah looked at Tyler, the man she'd trusted, maybe even loved. "Tell me she's lying." Tyler looked away. "I'm sorry, Sarah. My family, we're struggling financially. Grace offered to help if I helped her with the bet." The final piece clicked into place. "Oh my God," Sarah breathed. This was all part of it. The coffee shop meetings, the study sessions, you telling me you understood me. It was all fake. All of it. "Not all of it," Tyler said weakly. "I did enjoy spending time with you." "Get out," Sarah screamed, her fire finally erupting. "Get out of my sight before I do something we'll both regret." "Sarah, please," Linda started. "And you." Sarah whirled on her mother. "You sat here and watched this happen. You knew. You all knew." Daniel looked up from his phone, smirking. "That's 8 losses, Sarah. Just one more and you're out of our lives for good." Grace stood up gracefully, smoothing her designer dress. Sarah, don't you want to know what the ninth bet is? I don't give a damn what it is. Oh, I think you will. Grace walked closer, her heels clicking on the marble floor. The ninth bet is simple. Tyler chooses. Right here, right now. If he chooses you, I leave this family forever, just like the contract says. But if he chooses me... Her smile widened. You marry Dr. Marcus Reed. Sarah's blood turned to ice. Who is Dr. Marcus Reed? Robert cleared his throat. He's a decorated neurosurgeon. He was critically injured 6 months ago in a car accident while rushing to save a patient. He's been in a coma ever since at Toronto General Hospital. Why would I? His family is looking for someone to marry him, Linda explained, her voice detached, clinical. They believe having a wife might help him fight to wake up. But if he doesn't... She trailed off meaningfully. Then I'd be a 24-year-old widow, Sarah finished, her voice hollow. You want me to marry a man who might not make it. The Reed family is very influential in Toronto, Robert said. Very wealthy. They've been putting pressure on prominent families with eligible daughters for months. When we mentioned we had you... Offered me. Sarah's voice dropped to something dangerous. You offered me up like a sacrifice. We offered Grace first, Linda said quickly. But we couldn't bear the thought of her wasting her youth on a man who might never wake up. So we suggested you as an alternative. The betrayal hit Sarah like a physical blow. They didn't just not love her. They saw her as disposable. As something to be used and thrown away. Sarah, Grace said sweetly, all you have to do is win this last round. Get Tyler to choose you over me. And you'll never have to see me again. Isn't that what you want? Sarah looked at Tyler. He stood up slowly, and for one brief, stupid moment, Sarah thought she saw genuine regret in his eyes. Then he walked over to Grace and took her hand. I choose Grace, Tyler said. I'm sorry, Sarah, but my family needs the financial help Grace is offering. It's nothing personal. The room erupted. Daniel laughed, cruel and mocking. Grace's smile was triumphant. Even Linda looked relieved. That's 9, Grace announced victoriously. You lost, Sarah. Time to marry that man in a coma and get out of our lives forever. But Sarah didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just stood there, something fundamental shifting inside her. The scared foster kid who'd been desperate for love ceased to exist in that moment. Someone new was born. Someone who'd had enough. Fine, Sarah said quietly. Everyone stopped celebrating. What? Grace looked confused. I said fine. I'll marry Dr. Reed. Sarah turned to Robert, her voice calm but deadly. But I want something in exchange. Robert raised an eyebrow. You're hardly in a position to negotiate. Aren't I? Sarah smiled, cold and sharp. The Reed family is desperate, right? You said they've been pressuring prominent families for months. Nobody wants to marry a man in a coma. Nobody wants to risk being left alone so young. But I'll do it. If you give me Grandmother Silver's properties. Robert's face turned purple. Those properties are worth millions. 2 historic buildings in downtown Toronto. 7 million to be exact, Sarah said. I did my research. And they're just sitting there empty while you and Linda fight over who gets to inherit them when Grandma passes. So here's my offer. Sign them over to me now, and I'll marry Dr. Reed. I'll be the perfect daughter-in-law the Reed family needs. I'll play my part perfectly. This is insane. Grace jumped up. Dad, you promised me those properties. I promised to consider it, Robert said slowly, looking at Sarah with new eyes, seeing her clearly for the first time. You can't be seriously thinking about this. Grace's voice rose to a shriek. But Robert was thinking about it. Sarah could see the calculations happening behind his eyes. The Reed family was powerful. Dr. Victor Reed, Marcus's father, had connections to the premier, to Toronto's elite, to people who could make or break Robert's business ventures. Refusing them had consequences. The Reed family needs this marriage to happen quickly, Sarah pressed. Dr. Marcus Reed's grandfather is heartbroken. He's 87 years old, a decorated surgeon who can't handle the thought of his grandson dying alone. You told me yourselves, they're pushing hard for this wedding. She crossed her arms. So either I get those properties, or I walk away right now and you can explain to Dr. Victor Reed why you couldn't deliver a bride. The room went silent. This wasn't the scared foster girl they'd been manipulating for 3 months. This was someone who'd learned to play their game, and play it better. Robert and Diana exchanged a long look. Some silent conversation happened between them. Finally, Robert nodded slowly. Fine. But those properties are currently set to transfer to Grace upon your grandmother's passing. We'll need to change the paperwork. I want it done before the wedding, Sarah said. Legally binding, notarized, no loopholes, no takebacks. Agreed. And one more condition. Linda sighed heavily. What now? The marriage stays secret until after it's done. Grace and Tyler don't get to know when or where the ceremony happens. This is between me, you, and the Reed family. Grace frowned. Why would you? Not your concern. Sarah cut her off with ice in her voice. Do we have a deal or not? Robert extended his hand across the table. Deal. Sarah shook it, her grip firm and steady. As she walked out of the room, she heard Tyler call after her. Sarah, wait. She didn't even slow down. She was done being their victim. If they wanted to force her into a marriage with a man in a coma, fine. She'd do it. But she'd do it on her terms, with her conditions, and she'd make damn sure she came out on top. Sarah woke up at 5 a.m. in a hotel room that Dr. Marcus Reed's mother, Catherine, had reserved for her. On the chair by the window hung a simple white dress. Elegant, understated, beautiful. On the dresser sat a small bouquet of white roses and baby's breath. Sarah stared at herself in the bathroom mirror as she washed her face. In a few hours, she'd be married to a stranger. To a man who might never wake up. Her phone started ringing at 6 a.m. Tyler. Again. She declined the call. He called back immediately, then again, then again. 8 calls in 15 minutes. Finally, furious, Sarah answered. What? Sarah, please don't do this. Tyler's voice was strained, almost frantic. You don't have to marry him. We can figure something else out. There is no we, Tyler. There hasn't been a we since you chose Grace. I made a mistake, Tyler said desperately. Grace, she's not who I thought she was. She promised to help my family. But now she's saying she won't pay anything unless he stopped abruptly. Unless you what? Sarah asked coldly. Silence. Tyler. Unless you what? Unless I convince you not to marry Dr. Reed, Tyler finally admitted. Grace doesn't want you to get the satisfaction of this marriage. She wants you to back out, embarrass yourself in front of the Reed family, lose your credibility. And give her properties back. Sarah finished. Let me make something very clear, Sarah said, her voice like steel. I don't care what Grace wants. I don't care what you want. In 3 hours, I'm marrying Marcus Reed, and there's nothing either of you can do to stop me. Sarah. Tell Grace she lost. Again. I'm never backing out of this marriage. I win. She hung up and blocked his number. At 7:30 a.m., Sarah put on the white dress. It fit perfectly, like it had been made for her. She looked at herself in the mirror. She looked like a bride. She felt like a warrior going into battle. At 8 a.m., Catherine Reed knocked on her hotel room door. Catherine was tall, elegant, in her early 50s with kind eyes and the posture of someone who'd survived real hardship with grace intact. She wore a simple navy dress and pearl earrings. You look absolutely beautiful, sweetheart, Catherine said softly, her eyes glistening. Thank you for all of this, Sarah said, gesturing to the dress, the flowers, everything. No, honey. Thank you. Catherine took Sarah's hands in hers. I know this isn't a conventional situation. I know you have your own reasons for agreeing to this, and that's okay. But I want you to know, my son can't speak for himself right now. But if he could, I know Marcus would want to meet you properly. He'd want to do this right, with courting and dating and all the things young people deserve. Her voice cracked slightly. This isn't the wedding either of you deserve, but it's all we have right now. And I'm grateful, so grateful, that you're giving us this chance. Sarah squeezed Catherine's hands, surprised by the genuine warmth she felt from this woman. Then let's make it count. They went downstairs where a black town car waited, a small white ribbon tied to the antenna. As they drove through Toronto's morning traffic toward the hospital, Sarah watched the city wake up through the tinted windows. This was really happening. She was about to marry a man she'd never met. A man who might never wake up. But she was doing it as a free woman. Not as the Silver family's victim. Not as their disposable sacrifice. That had to mean something. Suddenly, the car swerved violently to the right. What's happening? Sarah grabbed the door handle as the driver cursed. Two black SUVs had appeared out of nowhere, boxing in their town car, forcing it toward the shoulder of the highway. The driver tried to maneuver away, but there was nowhere to go. They were trapped. The town car screeched to a stop on the shoulder, cars whizzing past them. Both SUV doors opened. Four men in dark suits stepped out, big men who looked like hired muscle. Oh God, Catherine breathed, already reaching for her phone. Sarah's door was yanked open from outside. One of the men reached in. Miss Chin, you need to come with us now. Who are you? Sarah demanded, that fire blazing to life. We work for Tyler Martinez. He sent us to bring you to him. He says it's urgent, a matter of life and death. I don't care what Tyler wants. Sarah tried to pull the door closed, but the man was stronger. Ma'am, we can do this easy or we can do this hard. You have 3 seconds to take your hands off my daughter-in-law, Catherine's voice cut through like a whip, before I call the police and have you arrested for assault. The man hesitated. Lady, this doesn't concern. I am Catherine Reed, she said, her voice turning to ice. My family has been in Toronto for 4 generations. My father-in-law is decorated Dr. Victor Reed with direct connections to the Premier, the Mayor, and the Chief of Police. You just forcibly stopped a vehicle and assaulted my son's bride on her wedding day. Catherine held up her phone. I have emergency services on speed dial and a lawyer on retainer. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to step away from this car, get back in your vehicles, and disappear. Or I will make it my personal mission to see you prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. The men exchanged uncertain glances. A third vehicle appeared, this one with Reed Security, emblazoned on the side in gold letters. 4 men stepped out, bigger than Tyler's hired muscle, and they looked like former military. Mrs. Reed, the head of security said calmly. Is there a problem? Yes, Daniel. These men just attempted to force my daughter-in-law out of our vehicle. Daniel and his team moved forward with practiced efficiency. Suddenly, Tyler's hired muscle didn't look so confident anymore. It was a misunderstanding. Leave, Daniel said quietly. Now. Before this becomes a police matter and a very public scandal. The men scrambled back into their SUVs and took off. Catherine helped Sarah straighten her dress and fix her veil, which had gotten messed up in the struggle. Are you all right, sweetheart? Catherine asked, her hands gentle. Sarah was shaking, but not from fear. From pure white-hot rage. They tried to force me out of the car, she said, her voice trembling with fury. On my wedding day. Tyler and Grace actually tried to stop this. Yes, they did, Catherine said grimly, her own anger carefully controlled. Which means they're desperate. Which means you're winning, Sarah. So let's go finish this, shall we? Sarah took a deep breath, centering herself, calling on every ounce of strength she'd built up over 24 years of survival. Yeah, she said. Let's go get married. They arrived at Toronto General Hospital 30 minutes late, but safe. Catherine led Sarah through a private entrance, away from the main lobby, up an elevator to the 4th floor. The chapel was small and intimate, tucked away in a quiet corner of the hospital. Soft light filtered through stained glass windows. Someone had decorated it simply but beautifully with white flowers and candles. Inside waited Marcus's father, Dr. Victor Reed, a distinguished man in his 50s with kind eyes and his son's strong jawline. Next to him stood Dr. Harold Reed, Marcus's grandfather, 87 years old but still standing straight and tall, his chest covered in medical achievement medals. And at the front of the chapel, positioned carefully near the altar, was Dr. Marcus Reed in a wheelchair. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. She'd expected someone who looked halfway gone, tubes and machines and the grey pallor of someone fading. Instead, she saw a man who looked like he was sleeping. Marcus was handsome, strong features, dark hair, broad shoulders even in his weakened state. They dressed him in a dark suit, the fabric crisp and perfect. "He looks," Sarah whispered. "Alive," Catherine finished softly. "Because he is alive, sweetheart. The doctors say he's not responsive, but we don't believe that. We can't believe that. He's still in there, still fighting." A hospital chaplain stood near the altar, an older woman with kind eyes and a warm smile. "Shall we begin?" she asked gently. Sarah walked slowly down the aisle, her heels clicking softly on the tile floor. This wasn't how she'd imagined her wedding. No big church, no crowd of friends, no romantic music or any of the things she'd secretly dreamed about as a little girl in foster care. But this was her reality now. She reached the front of the chapel and stood next to Marcus's wheelchair. Up close, she could see his chest rising and falling with each breath. Could see the faint stubble on his jaw. Could see the way his eyelashes rested against his cheeks. He looked peaceful. The chaplain began. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today in the sight of God and these witnesses to join together Sarah Marie Chan and Marcus Daniel Reed in holy matrimony." Sarah barely heard the words. She couldn't stop looking at Marcus. This man had dedicated his life to saving others. Had been critically injured rushing to save a patient. Had lived his life fighting for people who couldn't fight for themselves. And now he was here, trapped in his own body, unable to speak or move or defend himself. "The couple has chosen to exchange traditional vows," the chaplain said. "Since Dr. Reed is unable to speak them himself, his mother, Catherine, will speak on his behalf." Catherine stepped forward, tears already streaming down her face. "I, Marcus Daniel Reed," Catherine said, her voice shaking but clear, "take you, Sarah Marie Chen, to be my lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, until death do us part." Now it was Sarah's turn. She looked down at Marcus, and something shifted in her chest. Something she didn't quite understand yet. "I, Sarah Marie Chen," she said clearly, "take you, Marcus Daniel Reed, to be my lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, until death do us part." And she meant it. Every word. The chaplain handed her a simple gold wedding band. Since Marcus couldn't put a ring on her finger, Sarah slipped the band onto his ring finger herself. Her hands trembled as she did it. "By the power vested in me by the province of Ontario," the chaplain said, "I now pronounce you husband and wife." She paused, looking at Sarah with gentle understanding. "You may kiss your husband." Sarah leaned down slowly. She pressed a soft kiss to Marcus's forehead, her lips lingering there for just a moment. "I'll fight for you," she whispered against his skin, so quietly only he could possibly hear. "The way you fought for others. I promise." She didn't expect him to respond. But on the hospital monitoring equipment connected to Marcus's wheelchair, something flickered. His heart rate increased, just slightly, just for a moment. The chaplain noticed. His eyes widened. But before he could say anything, the moment passed. Marcus's vitals returned to their usual steady rhythm. Catherine was sobbing. Victor was crying. Even Dr. Harold Reed, who'd seen so much in his 87 years, wiped tears from his weathered face. "Ladies and gentlemen," the chaplain announced, his voice full of emotion, "I present to you Dr. and Mrs. Marcus Reed." Sarah straightened up, her hands still resting on Marcus's. She was married to a stranger in a coma. But for the first time in 3 months, she felt like maybe, just maybe, she'd made the right choice. After the ceremony, Catherine pulled Sarah aside while the men carefully wheeled Marcus back to his hospital room. "There's something you need to know," Catherine said quietly. "About Marcus's condition." "What is it?" "The doctors officially declared him unresponsive 3 weeks ago. They recommended we remove life support." Catherine's voice broke. "But we refused. Because his brain scans, they show minimal activity." "But there is activity." "It's not much, Sarah. It's barely anything. But it's there." "What does that mean?" "It means we have to believe, that Marcus is still in there somewhere. That he's fighting to come back." Catherine gripped Sarah's hands. "The doctors say coma patients sometimes respond to familiar voices, to touch, to love, to having a purpose, a reason to fight. You think having a wife will give him that reason?" Sarah said slowly. "I think having you will give him that reason," Catherine corrected. "I don't know why, Sarah. I can't explain it. But when you said your vows, when you kissed him, his heart rate increased. Just for a second. The chaplain saw it too." Sarah's breath caught. He responded. "Maybe. Or maybe it was just a coincidence. But either way," Catherine's eyes were fierce now. "Will you help us? Will you talk to him, spend time with him? Be present, even if it feels strange or pointless. Even if nothing changes." Sarah thought about Marcus. About the man who'd dedicated his life to saving others. Who'd been critically injured rushing to help a patient in need. "Yes," she said. "I'll do whatever it takes." Catherine hugged her tightly. "Thank you. Thank you so much. You have no idea what this means to our family." But as they walked toward Marcus's hospital room, Sarah's phone buzzed. She pulled it out. A text from Grace. "Enjoy your husband in a coma. Hope it was worth $7 million. You'll be alone by Christmas." Sarah stared at the message for a long moment. Then she typed back. "At least my husband is a hero. What's Tyler?" "Oh right. Your puppet. Enjoy pulling his strings." She hit send, then blocked Grace's number. She was done with them. Done with their games. Done with their cruelty. Sarah Chen, no, Sarah Reed now, had a husband to fight for. And she always kept her promises to us. Sarah woke up the morning after her wedding with a strange feeling in her chest. She wasn't in the basement of the Silver Mansion anymore. She was in a hotel room Catherine had kept reserved for her, paid for by the Reed family for as long as she needed it. On the nightstand sat her wedding bouquet from yesterday, already starting to wilt. Next to it, her phone showed 23 missed calls from blocked numbers. Tyler and Grace. Sarah deleted them all without listening and looked at her left hand. The simple gold band caught the morning light. She was married to Dr. Marcus Reed. A man in a coma who might never wake up. A stranger who'd become her escape route and somehow, her responsibility. But as she got dressed and headed to the hospital, Sarah realized something. She didn't feel trapped. For the first time in 3 months, she felt free. "Good morning, Mrs. Reed," the nurse at the 4th floor desk said warmly. "Mrs. Reed." Sarah smiled despite herself. "Good morning." She walked down the hallway to room 412 and pushed open the door. Catherine was already there, sitting beside Marcus with 2 cups of coffee. "Good morning, sweetheart," Catherine said, standing to hug her. "I brought you coffee. 2 creams and 1 sugar, right?" You remembered. Sarah was touched. Linda Silver had never once asked how she took her coffee. Your family now, Catherine said simply. This is what family does. Sarah sat in the chair on the other side of Marcus's bed and looked at him. In the morning light, she could see him more clearly than she had yesterday during the chaos of the wedding. He really was handsome. Strong jawline, full lips, long eyelashes that rested against his cheeks. Even unconscious, there was something commanding about his presence. He looks peaceful, Sarah said softly. He does, Catherine agreed. But I know my son. Marcus hates being still. Wherever he is in there, he's fighting to come back. Sarah reached out and took Marcus's hand, the one with the wedding ring she'd placed there yesterday. Hey Marcus, she said quietly. It's me, Sarah. Your wife. Day one of married life. She trailed off, feeling awkward. Catherine smiled warmly. I'm going to give you two some privacy. Take your time. After Catherine left, Sarah settled deeper into the chair. Okay, so this is weird, she admitted to Marcus's sleeping form. Talking to someone who can't talk back. But here goes. Your mom told me you're stubborn. Well, guess what? So am I. And I don't lose, Dr. Reed. So you need to wake up. Whenever you're ready. Just wake up. Because I made you a promise yesterday, and I keep my promises. On the monitor, Marcus's heart rate increased slightly. Sarah didn't notice, but the nurse passing by did. A week after the wedding, Sarah fell into a routine that felt more natural than anything she'd experienced with the Silver family. Every morning at 8 a.m., she arrived at the hospital. Catherine would already be there with coffee and stories about Marcus. He was the most stubborn child, Catherine said one morning, showing photos on her phone. See this? He was 7 years old, determined to climb this tree. He fell 4 times, but he kept trying until he made it to the top. Sarah smiled at the photo of young Marcus, gap-toothed and covered in dirt. He sounds exhausting. Oh, he was, Catherine laughed. But he was also the sweetest boy. He brought home every stray animal, defended every kid who got bullied at school. He had the biggest heart. Had, Sarah raised an eyebrow. Has, Catherine corrected, her eyes getting misty. Has the biggest heart. He's going to wake up. And when he does, he's going to be so grateful you were here. At 9 a.m., Monica the physical therapist would arrive, and Sarah learned to help with Marcus's exercises, moving his limbs to keep his muscles from deteriorating. Talk to him while you do it, Monica instructed. Some patients respond better to familiar voices. So Sarah talked. Okay, Dr. Reed, we're bending your right arm now. I bet you hate this, huh? Someone else moving your body for you. You seem like a control freak. Well, too bad. Right now, I'm the boss. After physical therapy, Sarah would read to Marcus. Catherine kept bringing romance novels, but after 3 days, Sarah brought her own choice. Your mom keeps giving me Jane Austen, Sarah announced, holding up a thick book. But today we're reading what I picked. The Count of Monte Cristo. It's about a guy who gets betrayed and comes back for revenge. Felt appropriate. She started reading. Deep in his coma, Marcus heard her voice reading his favorite book and felt something stir in his unconscious mind. Something he hadn't felt in 6 months. A pull back toward consciousness. A reason to fight. 3 weeks after the wedding, Sarah sat in her usual chair beside Marcus's bed late one evening, reading aloud from the Count of Monte Cristo. There is neither happiness nor misery in the world, she read softly. There is only the comparison of one state with another, nothing more. She paused. I used to think I understood that. But now, she looked at Marcus's peaceful face. Now I think the author was wrong. Because sitting here with you, even like this, feels like happiness compared to every day I spent with the Silver family. She squeezed his hand gently. Is that crazy? Finding peace next to someone who can't even respond. On the monitor, something changed. Marcus's heart rate ticked up, just slightly. From 68 to 72. Sarah didn't notice. She kept talking. Your mom thinks you can hear me. Sometimes I think she's right. Sometimes I swear I feel you squeeze my hand back. But the nurses say it's just muscle reflexes. She laughed softly. I'm probably going insane, talking to you like this every day. The heart monitor climbed to 75. But you know what? Even if you never wake up, even if this is my life now, reading to you, helping with therapy, being Mrs. Reed to a man who doesn't know I exist, it's still better than being Sarah Chen, the foster kid nobody wanted. 78 beats per minute. So thank you, Marcus Reed, for giving me an escape, for giving me a family that actually cares. His finger moved. Just a twitch, barely perceptible. But Sarah felt it. She froze, staring at their joined hands. Marcus. Nothing. Marcus, if you can hear me, do that again. Please. The monitor showed 82 beats per minute now. And then, clear as day, his index finger curled around hers in a deliberate squeeze. Sarah gasped, jumping to her feet. Oh my God. Oh my God. Nurse. Nurse. She pressed the call button frantically, never letting go of his hand. Marcus, stay with me. I know you're in there. Keep fighting. Another squeeze. Stronger this time. The monitor hit 85. His eyelids flickered, just for a second, but Sarah saw it. You're coming back, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. You're actually coming back. Dr. Patterson rushed into the room, followed by two nurses. What happened? She asked immediately, checking his monitors. He squeezed my hand, Sarah said breathlessly. Twice. And his eyes moved. I saw them. Dr. Patterson pulled out her penlight, checking Marcus's pupils. Marcus. Dr. Reed. Can you hear me? No response. She lifted his eyelid gently, shining the light. His pupil contracted. Dr. Patterson's eyes widened. That's new. That's a voluntary response. What does that mean? Sarah gripped Marcus's hand tighter. It means his brain activity is increasing significantly. He's fighting his way toward consciousness. Dr. Patterson looked at the monitor. His heart rate is elevated. His brainwaves are more active than they've been in months. Whatever you're doing, Mrs. Reed, it's working. So he might wake up? I can't make promises, but these are very encouraging signs. Dr. Patterson smiled. Keep talking to him. Keep being present. You might be exactly what he needs to find his way back. After the medical team left, Sarah sat back down, still holding Marcus's hand. Did you hear that? She whispered. You're getting better. You're fighting. She leaned close to his ear. So keep fighting, okay? Because I need you to wake up, Marcus. I need you to wake up and tell me if this marriage could ever be more than just a piece of paper. I need you to wake up and look at me with those eyes and tell me. She stopped, realizing what she was saying. When had this stopped being about escape and started being about him? Just wake up, she finished quietly. Please. In the hallway outside, Catherine Reed stood listening, tears streaming down her face. Her son was coming back. And it was because of the fierce young woman who'd agreed to marry a stranger. Meanwhile, across town, Tyler Martinez sat in his beat-up car outside a different hospital, staring at a mountain of medical bills spread across his passenger seat. $187,432. Total due in 72 hours. His father had been discharged that morning. No more treatment. Just hospice care and waiting for the inevitable. Tyler had called Grace 17 times demanding the payment she'd promised. She'd blocked his number. He'd gone to the Silver Mansion. Security threw him out like garbage. This was all Sarah's fault. If she'd just backed out of that wedding like she was supposed to, Grace would have paid him. His dad would still be getting treatment. But no. Sarah had to be stubborn. Had to marry that doctor. Had to take those $7 million properties and win while Tyler's father was dying. Well, if Sarah had the money now, then Sarah could help him. She owed him that much. Tyler pulled out his laptop and started researching Toronto General Hospital security systems. Floor plans. Guard rotations. Key card access points. His hands shook as he typed. He wasn't a bad person. He was just desperate. If Sarah wouldn't help him willingly, he'd have to convince her. And if Dr. Reed got in the way, Tyler would make sure he went right back to sleep. Permanently. 2 nights later, Sarah fell asleep in the chair beside Marcus's bed around midnight. Catherine had gone home to rest, and Sarah had insisted on staying. She'd been reading to him again, The Count of Monte Cristo, and exhaustion finally caught up with her. At 2:47 a.m., the door to room 412 opened quietly. Tyler Martinez slipped inside, wearing dark clothes and a hospital worker's stolen ID badge. He'd studied the security patterns. He knew the night shift nurses took their break at 2:30. He had maybe 15 minutes. He moved toward Marcus's bed, a syringe hidden in his jacket pocket. Just a little air bubble in the foreline. They'd call it a tragic complication. No one would know. Sarah would have access to those properties. She'd be a widow with $7 million. And Tyler would finally get what he needed to save his father. He reached for Marcus's foreline. Don't. Sarah's voice cut through the darkness. Tyler spun around. Sarah stood up from her chair, her phone already in her hand, camera recording. I've been filming for 30 seconds, Sarah said, her voice steady. Everything you just did. Breaking in. Approaching his fore. I have it all, Tyler. Sarah, please. Tyler's voice cracked. My dad is dying. Grace promised to help, but she won't pay. I need money. You have $7 million in properties. Just give me one building. Just one. I'll sell it, save my dad, and disappear. You'll never see me again. So you were going to kill my husband? He's not really your husband, Tyler shouted. He's a stranger in a coma. He doesn't even know you exist. I know him, Sarah said quietly. I know he saved lives. I know he fought for people who couldn't fight for themselves. And I know he's coming back. He's not coming back, Sarah. Stop fooling yourself. Actually, a weak voice rasped from the bed. I disagree. Both Sarah and Tyler froze. Marcus's eyes were open. He looked disoriented, weak, but awake. His brown eyes found Sarah immediately. You, Marcus whispered, his voice rough from months of disuse. I know your voice. You've been reading to me. The Count of Monte Cristo. Sarah's hand flew to her mouth, tears streaming down her face. Marcus. Oh my God. You're awake. Tyler backed toward the door, but Sarah pressed the emergency call button. Security is coming, Sarah said, never taking her eyes off Marcus. And they're going to find you here with a recording of you trying to hurt my husband. Sarah, please. Get out, Marcus said, his voice getting stronger. Before I press charges myself. Tyler ran. Within seconds, security filled the hallway, catching him before he could escape. Dr. Patterson rushed in moments later, shocked to find Marcus conscious and alert. This is incredible, she stammered, checking his vitals. Dr. Reed, do you know where you are? Toronto General, Marcus said. I'm a neurosurgeon here. Or I was. He looked at Sarah. How long? 6 months, Sarah said softly. And you are? Sarah held up her left hand, showing her wedding ring. Sarah Reed. Your wife. Marcus's eyes widened. Then, impossibly, he smiled, weak but genuine. My mom's idea. Kind of a long story. I heard some of it, Marcus said. In the coma. I heard you talking. Felt you holding my hand. Heard you promise to fight for me. His eyes met hers. You kept your promise. So did you, Sarah whispered. You came back. Over the next weeks, Marcus's recovery was remarkable. He had physical therapy to regain his strength, but his mind was sharp, his determination fierce. Sarah visited every day. They talked for hours, about her childhood in foster care, about his career saving lives, about the bizarre circumstances that brought them together. "So you married me to escape your terrible family and get $7 million in property?" Marcus asked one afternoon, a teasing glint in his eye. "That was the plan," Sarah admitted. "But somewhere along the way, you actually started to care about the stranger in the coma?" "Something like that." Marcus reached for her hand. "Sarah, I know this marriage started as a transaction. I know we didn't choose each other under normal circumstances. But I'd like to try. Really try. Date properly. Get to know each other. See if this could be real." Sarah squeezed his hand. "I'd like that too." 6 months later, they renewed their vows. This time, Marcus was standing, smiling, fully present. Catherine cried happy tears. Even Grandma Silver attended, having disowned Grace and welcomed Sarah back. Tyler was charged with attempted murder but given probation due to his father's situation. Grace lost all inheritance rights and moved away. And Sarah? She finally had what she'd always wanted, a real family. Real love. A real home. Not because someone felt obligated, but because she'd fought for it. And so had he. "I'm crying." Marcus woke up. "They're going to make it." Drop a comment telling me your favorite part of this story. Did this ending give you all the feels, or what? If you loved Sarah and Marcus's journey, please subscribe for more incredible stories like this. Hit that like button, share this with someone who needs to hear a story about never giving up, and I'll see you in the next story. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, never let anyone make you feel disposable. Fight for yourself. Fight for love. And never, ever give up. See you next time.